started with a gift. That's how absurd this whole thing is. It began with a gift box, hand-wrapped, navy ribbon, left on our kitchen counter one Friday morning while I was in the shower. No note, no occasion. She told me it was something small, a just-because gesture. I opened it and found a watch, sleek, black, minimalist. Not cheap either. I looked up, confused. She just smiled and said, "You've been working hard lately. Figured you deserved a little something." It didn't sit right. Not because of the watch, I liked the watch, but because that wasn't her. She wasn't spontaneous. She was practical to the bone, the type who organized grocery lists by aisle. That's not criticism, it's just who she was. Until she wasn't. That same night, she was jittery. Not in a nervous way, more like buzzing. I remember it because she drank wine, 2 glasses. She never drinks more than one unless it's somebody's birthday or she's trying to distract me from something. And then, out of nowhere, she said she needed to ask me something non-traditional. I didn't interrupt. I let her talk. She had that look, the one people get when they're already sure they're going to do something and just want your approval so they can feel less guilty about it. She told me she wanted a weekend away. Alone. Claimed she needed space to reset after what she called the emotional fatigue of routine. That's what she said. Emotional fatigue of routine. Like our life was a spreadsheet that tired her out. I asked her where she was planning to go and she said she wasn't sure yet. Somewhere quiet. Someplace I can breathe. There was a pause. I felt it stretching the room like elastic, waiting to snap. Then she added, "I think I need to feel something new." "What does that mean?" I asked. She hesitated, smiled, tilted her head a little, something almost rehearsed. Then said it straight. "A hall pass. You know, like in those couples therapy books. Just one weekend. One experience. No questions asked." I stared at her. Not because I didn't understand. I did. I understood every word. But what caught me wasn't the request itself. It was how calm she was when she said it. How tidy she made it sound. Like she was discussing redecorating the guest room. I asked her if she was serious. She said yes. I asked if there was someone already. She looked me in the eyes and said no, not yet. Lies taste different when they're fresh. There's a texture to them. And that lie? It was raw. Still twitching. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I said I needed time to think. She nodded like she'd expected that. Got up, walked away, and left her empty wine glass on the table like a piece of herself she was done using. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in the living room holding that fancy watch like it was a clue in a crime I hadn't even known was being committed. I had no idea then that the hall pass wasn't just some bold request or some desperate cry for excitement. It was a cover. A curtain she'd pulled between me and the truth, and behind it something was already happening. And by the time I realized that, the show was halfway through. She left the next Friday. Not with a suitcase, with a designer weekender bag I'd never seen before. Black leather, monogrammed. She said she'd found it on sale. When I asked where she was going, she said Asheville. Cabin in the woods. Solo time. Wine. Journaling. She even pulled up a fake listing on her phone, a rustic Airbnb with a lake view and a yoga deck. It looked staged, like the picture had been pulled from a Pinterest board of healing spaces. I watched her drive off. Didn't kiss me goodbye. Just waved through the windshield, sunglasses on, windows up. Not once did she look back. At first, I sat on the couch trying to swallow it all. She really did it. She asked for permission to disappear for a weekend, and I gave it to her like some kind of loyal golden retriever, wagging my tail and trusting she'd come back with love in her eyes. But then something snapped. I stood up and started pacing. Then I walked into our bedroom, opened her side of the closet, and stood there staring at the emptiness. Her favorite boots were gone, the high-heeled tan ones she never wore hiking. Her perfume was missing too. The one she only used when we went to weddings or parties where she needed to impress someone new. That was the first real moment it hit me like a sledgehammer. She wasn't going to Asheville. I didn't even know who I was dealing with anymore. I went back to the living room and opened my laptop. Checked the browser history. Nothing. She'd cleared it. Every last search. Even her bookmarks were wiped clean. Then I remembered we share a phone plan. I opened the provider's site, logged in, and started looking at the call logs and data usage. There it was. A number that had been showing up consistently for weeks. Usually late at night, usually for an hour or more. It wasn't saved in her contacts, which meant she'd been calling him directly. I copied the number, found a reverse lookup site, and waited. A name popped up. Caleb Thorne. Never heard of him. But I clicked around and he wasn't hard to find. Gym selfies. Motorcycle pics. Tattoo on his collarbone that said "Own Nothing. Fear Nothing." Real original. I was still staring at his Instagram feed when a new story went up. It was a blurry shot of a fire pit, 2 wine glasses, a woman's bare legs stretched out on a lounge chair, and a hand. Her hand. I knew those chipped nails anywhere. Burgundy polish, ring finger always a little shorter. She was there. With him. Not in Asheville. Not journaling. She was sprawled out in some luxury villa with a man I'd never met, drinking wine and playing pretend with my trust. And here's the sickest part, I still wasn't angry. Not yet. I was quiet. Numb. Frozen. Like my body didn't know which emotion to pick. So it shut down the whole system. But that changed fast. Because 10 minutes later, my phone lit up with a message. From her. Hope you're relaxing too. I really needed this. Love you. She said love you while her legs were wrapped around another man's weekend. That's when I stopped being confused. Stopped being stunned. That's when I started planning. I didn't reply to her message. Not a word. I stared at it until the screen dimmed, and then I locked my phone and set it face down on the table. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't even try. I sat in our bedroom, in the dark, thinking about all the little things. How she used to get annoyed when I left the sponge in the sink. How she hated cilantro. How she used to cry watching documentaries about animals. Now she was probably wrapped in a hotel robe, sipping wine, letting that guy run his fingers over her back like he'd earned any piece of her. I replayed everything. Her phone suddenly on Do Not Disturb. Her weird interest in self-help podcasts about living authentically. The new underwear I found in the laundry. Lacy. Black. Not her style. Not until him. By the time the sun came up, I wasn't the same person who'd given her that ridiculous hall pass. I wanted the truth. Not the version she rehearsed in front of the mirror. The truth with blood and bone. So I called my brother. Zach's a sharp guy, no filter, no patience for liars. I told him everything. He didn't waste time asking if I was sure. He just said, "Where is she staying?" "I don't know." "Want to find out?" An hour later, he showed up at my place with a laptop, black coffee, and that look he gets when he's about to tear something down. We dug. Fast. Deep. Found out Caleb Thorne works at a boutique motorcycle dealership 2 towns over. He also co-owns a lakefront property through a holding company, probably where they were holed up. Zillow had pictures. Hot tub, massive deck, dock for kayaking. Romantic as hell. And there it was. In one of the pictures. Same chairs, same fire pit as in his story. She was there. Zach looked at me. "You want to drive up there?" I didn't answer at first. I just stared at the screen. Then I said no. Let her have it. I want to see how deep she's willing to go before she drowns. Instead, we made another plan. Zach had a friend, Tanya, who ran a private investigations firm. Nothing official, nothing that needed paperwork. Just someone who knew how to follow and document without getting noticed. I called her, explained the situation, sent her Caleb's name, address, the property. She didn't hesitate. "I'll head up tonight. You'll have everything by tomorrow." And just like that, the waiting began. I cleaned the house like a lunatic, polished every surface, put fresh sheets on the bed, took out the trash, like I was preparing for something sacred or sinister. I couldn't tell which. Then I opened a new document on my computer. And I started writing everything down. Every lie. Every time she said she was running late or just tired. Every moment she made me feel like I was the one dragging us down. Because if she wanted a weekend off from our marriage, fine. But when she walked back through that door, she was going to meet someone else entirely. And I wasn't going to be the one caught off guard this time. She came home Sunday evening, just after 7. I heard the car pull into the driveway while I was in the kitchen, slicing lemons. For no reason. I wasn't drinking anything that needed lemons. I just needed something to do with a knife in my hand. She walked in carrying that same expensive bag, her face glowing like she'd just come from a spa retreat. Eyes bright, cheeks a little sun-kissed. She smelled like a hotel lobby and lies. I didn't look up right away. I wanted her to feel the silence before I spoke. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice light, fake casual. "Miss me?" I didn't answer. I just rinsed my hands, dried them, and turned around. She blinked. "You okay?" Still no answer. That's when the smile twitched, cracked just a little. I walked past her into the living room and sat down on the couch. I waited, and finally she followed. She stood there with that guilty smirk people wear when they think they've pulled something off but haven't checked all their exits. "I feel like you're mad," she said, forcing a laugh. "I know this weekend was a little out there, but where'd you stay?" I asked, cutting her off. She froze, just for a second, then recovered. "That cabin I told you about, Asheville. I sent you the link, remember?" "Yeah," I said, nodding slowly. "But you never checked in there. Your phone never pinged in Asheville once. You were at Lake Reamer." Now she paused. Longer this time. "How do you know that?" I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, looking her dead in the eye. "I know everything." Her face drained a little. That sun-kissed glow dimmed. She looked around like the walls were closing in. "I can explain," she said, walking slowly toward me. "It's not what it looks like." "No," I said, standing. "Don't insult both of us. You asked for a weekend. I gave it to you. You promised me it was about reflection, clarity. You used words like reset and growth. Meanwhile, you were feeding strawberries to a guy with a tribal sleeve and a boat." Her eyes narrowed. "You've been spying on me? Don't flip this. You lied. You staged a fake listing. You bought new lingerie and hid it under your seat. You deleted your call history. You've been talking to him for weeks. And you still had the audacity to text me, 'Love you,' while you were wrapped around his neck." "I didn't do anything wrong," she snapped suddenly. And there it was. The real her, peeking through. "We agreed. You said yes. You gave me permission. Permission to breathe," I said, stepping closer. "Not to deceive. Not to plot behind my back and humiliate me." "Oh, come on," she hissed. "Don't act like you're some saint. You were coasting. You barely looked at me anymore. All you did was work, nap, scroll through your phone. I needed to feel alive. And screwing a stranger was your cure?" I said louder now. "You couldn't just talk to me?" She crossed her arms, eyes cold. "I did talk. You didn't listen. And maybe Caleb made me feel something you stopped giving me a long time ago." There it was. The final jab. I took a breath. Not because I was about to explode, I wasn't. That storm had already passed. What settled in me now was something colder, cleaner. I stepped back. "You know what the worst part is? It's not even the cheating. It's how smug you are about it. Like I'm supposed to applaud you for being bold enough to ruin what we built." She scoffed. "Wow. So dramatic. You think this is over a weekend?" I asked, almost laughing. "You made it permanent. You just don't know it yet." She stared at me, uncertain now. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I guess we'll talk about that tomorrow," I said, walking past her toward the bedroom. "You're gonna want to get some sleep." I shut the door behind me. And for the first time in months, I slept like a rock. The next morning, she woke up before me. That never used to happen. I could hear her in the kitchen, opening and closing cabinets, moving with too much energy, like she was trying to scrub the night before out of the house. I took my time. Brushed my teeth, showered, got dressed like I was going to a meeting. White shirt, clean shave, sharp mind. When I walked in, she was at the table pretending to read a magazine. No coffee, no breakfast, just flipping pages she wasn't looking at. She glanced up. "We need to talk." I sat down across from her, calm. "Then talk." She hesitated. "I don't like how last night went." "You lied to my face," I said. "You built a lie and decorated it like a vacation. How should last night have gone?" She ignored that. Typical. She always thought skipping the Messier parts made her look more composed. But that didn't work anymore. Not now. "I made a mistake," she said. "Okay, I admit that. But you're acting like I committed a crime. You didn't commit a crime, I said. You committed a betrayal. I needed space. You had a house, a car, your own job. You had all the space you wanted. What you wanted was permission to feel single without any of the consequences. She slammed the magazine shut. This marriage was suffocating me, she said through her teeth. You think I wanted to lie? You think I planned all this just to hurt you? You stopped seeing me. You started treating me like furniture. And your solution was Caleb. She stood, arms folded, pacing now. It was one weekend. It's not like I fell in love with the guy. But you could've, I said. You gave yourself the chance. That's worse. She stopped. So what now? You going to divorce me over this? I didn't flinch. I'm considering it. Silence. Heavy. She wasn't expecting that. She thought I'd bark, accuse, break something. She didn't know what to do with the version of me that didn't beg, didn't plead, didn't cry. Are you serious? I've already talked to someone, I said. We'll go over things this week. I just wanted to see how honest you'd be before I filed. You talked to a lawyer? No, I said, standing up slowly. A private investigator. Her eyes widened. I didn't enjoy the panic. I wasn't proud of it, but I let her sit in it. You weren't subtle, I said. Photos. Logs. Your name on the guest registry. His hand on your back in the parking lot. The way you laughed when you thought no one was watching. Her voice was lower now. Smaller. You had someone follow me? You disappeared with a stranger under the pretense of healing. I had every right to know what I was dealing with. She sat down slowly. Her whole posture collapsed. I didn't know what I was doing, she said, almost whispering. I thought maybe you wouldn't care. And there it was, the ugliest part of the whole thing. She didn't think I'd fight for her. She didn't even think I'd notice. She thought I was already gone, and that gave her permission to go first. I stood over her now, quiet. This is your wake-up call, I said. Not just about me. About who you've become. About how little you respect the life we built. She didn't respond. Just stared at her hands, her voice caught somewhere deep. I'll go stay at Zach's for a few days, I said. You can figure out if this marriage is still something you want. But understand this, you're not in control of the story anymore. I walked to the door, grabbed my keys, and paused before leaving. And if you contact him again, I won't be back at all. I left her sitting at that table, alone, surrounded by everything she'd taken for granted. And I didn't look back. I didn't hear from her for 2 days. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a half-hearted, I miss you. Nothing. Zach let me crash on his couch. He didn't ask questions, not because he wasn't curious, but because he knew the answers would piss him off too much. Instead, he kept it simple: grilled meat, late-night movies, and space. That's what I needed. Silence without tension. A place where the walls didn't whisper her name every time I closed my eyes. By the 3rd day, she cracked. She sent a message, "Can we talk?" I stared at it for a while before responding, "At the house. Tonight." She replied instantly, "I'll be there." I arrived first. The place was spotless, not in a lived-in way, but in that artificial, frantic cleaning kind of way, like she was trying to scrub guilt off the walls. Candles were lit, the kind she always saved for guests. She was dressed like she had somewhere to be afterward. Hair done, makeup soft, sweater just loose enough to look unintentional. Her version of vulnerable. She stood in the kitchen like she was afraid to move. I didn't sit. I leaned against the wall and watched her squirm. "I've been thinking a lot," she began. "I'd hope so." She flinched. "I want to fix this. I know that doesn't mean much right now, but I do." "Why now?" She looked down. "Because I saw what it felt like to actually lose you. Not just the routine. You. Your presence. The way you look at me when you're quiet. The steadiness. You didn't lose me," I said. "You pushed me." She nodded. "I know. And I deserve that. I don't know what came over me. I felt invisible. And instead of being honest about it, I acted out. I made a fantasy real, and now I'm living in the wreckage." I walked toward the table and sat, but didn't invite her to join me. She sat anyway. "I don't know if you'll believe me, but nothing about it felt right. Even when I was with him. I kept comparing everything to you. The way he talked. The way he touched my hand like it was just skin. You never did that. You always held me like you remembered who I was. It should have made me feel good. It didn't. It felt like a performance. Like she'd rehearsed it. Are you still talking to him? She looked up sharply. No, you swear. I blocked his number. I haven't opened my DMs. I told him it was over. I nodded slowly. Good. Because I talked to Tanya again. She froze. You're still tracking me? No. I asked her to stop. But she did give me one last report. Right before I called her off. Her jaw clenched. And? I believe you, I said. For now. She exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for 3 days. But belief isn't forgiveness, I added. Don't confuse the two. She looked at me then, really looked. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I saw her break. No walls, no pride. Just fear. Sadness. And that one thing she'd been avoiding the entire time, regret. I want to fight for this, she said, barely above a whisper. I leaned back. Let the words hang between us. Then be ready to lose some rounds. Because it's not going to be easy. I know. I mean it. You don't get to cry once and be absolved. You're going to have to sit in this with me. All the way. She nodded. I stood, walked past her, then stopped at the hallway. You sleeping in the guest room? We're not there yet. She didn't argue. She just said okay. And that night, for the first time in our marriage, she cried herself to sleep on the other side of a locked door. And I let her. The guest room door stayed shut for 3 nights. I heard her in there, moving quietly, no late-night phone calls, no whispers, no music playing low like she used to when she was sneaking something. Just silence. Heavy, almost reverent silence. I didn't talk much. I couldn't. My mind was still stuck on a loop of what-ifs and could-haves. I'd find myself staring at the wall mid-coffee, replaying the moment she said it was just a weekend like it was a traffic ticket. She didn't understand that she hadn't just borrowed time. She'd burned the bridge we'd spent years laying brick by brick. But she stayed. That was what caught me off guard. No drama, no begging, no storming out in guilt. She stayed and lived inside the discomfort like it was the price she owed. That was new. On the 4th morning, she made breakfast. Nothing fancy, just toast, eggs, coffee. Set it on the table without a word, then sat across from me. Her eyes looked smaller. Not from crying, but from exhaustion. Like holding herself accountable was wearing her thin. I know I don't deserve to ask anything, she said softly. But can I tell you something? I nodded. I haven't stopped thinking about what you said. That I didn't just cheat, I pushed you out. That hit me harder than anything. I sipped my coffee. Didn't say a word. I kept asking myself why I did it. Why I chose that instead of just facing what we were going through. And I think it's because I thought I already lost you. That you were here but gone. And if you were already gone, what did it matter if I disappeared first? I finally looked at her. That's the problem, I said. You never asked me if I was gone. You decided it. Alone. I know. I was afraid if I asked, you'd say yes. You were afraid of hearing the truth, so you replaced it with a fantasy. And now we're here. In the wreckage. She wiped her eye. Do you want to fix it? I put the cup down. Thought about that question for a long time. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because I needed her to see how heavy that answer had become. I want to. But I don't know if I can. Tell me what to do. You can't fix this with gestures. This isn't a grand apology scene. You rebuild trust one hard moment at a time. You stay, you listen, you show up. Even when it's ugly. I will. I'm going to ask you things you don't want to answer. You're going to have to explain things you wish you'd never done. And I'm not going to let you off the hook. That's how this goes. I want that. I want the truth between us again. No matter how much it hurts. I studied her face. I was looking for cracks, tells, the twitch of a lie trying to escape. But there weren't any. Not this time. All right, I said finally. Then we start here. She nodded, eyes wide and scared. I pushed the plate toward her. Eat. Then I want to know everything. From the beginning. Every message. Every thought. Don't leave anything out. She swallowed hard. And for the next 3 hours, she talked. No defenses. No rehearsed lines. Just the raw, bitter truth. And I listened. Because if we were going to claw our way out of this hell, I needed to know exactly how deep we'd sunk. She told me everything. Not in the vague, cowardly way people confess when they want to protect the version of themselves they still believe in. She gave it to me raw. Names, places, messages. The first Instagram follow. The first DM. The flirty comment he left under a photo of her in that red sweater I always told her made her look dangerous. She admitted she'd responded with a joke just to test the waters. She said she never expected it to escalate. Said it felt harmless at first, like slipping a toe into cold water just to feel something again. Then came the late-night chats, the inside jokes, the if we met in another life nonsense. She told me he made her feel seen. That word again. Like I'd turned invisible. And I couldn't even argue. She didn't let me. Every time I flinched, she stopped and made me look at her. She wanted me to hear it all, no matter how much it fractured us. She said the first time they met in person, it wasn't even planned. He had just happened to be at a bar she went to with friends. I called BS. She didn't argue. She admitted they coordinated it. Lied to her friends, used them as cover. I sat across from him in that booth, she said. And I kept thinking about how I was going to lie to you later, and that ruined it. Did you still go home with him? She didn't answer right away, just nodded. Did you want to? I wanted to, she said. I wanted it to feel like freedom. I clenched my jaw. She saw that and didn't stop. It didn't. Felt like I was playing a role in a movie I didn't audition for. I kept picturing you in the kitchen making coffee, just existing, and it made me sick. Did you stop? No. I told myself I had to finish it. That stopping halfway would make it worse. I looked away. My hands were shaking under the table, but I kept my voice even. And the weekend? After that night, I told him we were done. He kept texting. Said he booked a lake house. Said it'd be the real thing this time. Said I owed it to myself to come. I didn't even think. I packed. Left. Told myself it was for closure. Did it feel like closure? It felt like I'd buried myself in a lie so deep I couldn't tell what daylight was anymore. I stared at her. You let him touch the life I built with you. She nodded. I did. And I hate myself for it. She looked like she meant it. Not in a performative way. Her voice cracked. Her eyes were raw. This wasn't the same woman who'd smiled and lied on that Sunday evening. And still, my mind kept flashing to the lake. To him opening a bottle of wine. To her laughing. To her calling that place healing. I stood up. Walked to the window. Do you still think about him? No, she said without hesitation. I think about you. Every second. I turned to her. I don't know who you are anymore. She nodded slowly. Neither do I. But I want to find her again. And I want you to meet her. If you'll stay long enough. I didn't answer. She stood, walked to me. Not close. Just close enough for me to hear her breath. I'm not going anywhere, she said. Even if you do. And for the first time I believed her. But belief isn't trust. And forgiveness doesn't come just because you ask for it. It has to be earned in silence, in stillness over time. Like light bleeding slowly through a closed door. The days that followed were quiet, but not the peaceful kind. It was a different kind of silence, surgical, deliberate. Like the house itself had joined in, holding its breath, waiting to see which one of us would break first. She didn't retreat. That surprised me. She kept showing up. Not with flowers or long apologies or desperate attempts to pretend everything was fine. She just stayed present. Cooked meals. Sat beside me without speaking. Answered every question I had, no matter how much it cut her open. Never once said, "Can we not do this right now?" Never once said, "But we already talked about this." One night I asked her what he said when she told him it was over. She paused. He called me a coward. Was he wrong? No, she said. Not then. She started therapy that week. Found the number herself. Booked it without asking. I didn't push for it, she volunteered. Left the appointment card on the fridge like a promise written in ink. Still, I didn't move back into our room. I slept in the guest room now. It was the only way I could reclaim a piece of myself, no matter how small. She never knocked. Never begged. She'd leave a blanket folded at the foot of the couch if I napped too long. Little things. Careful, quiet, consistent. But inside me, the war raged. Every hour, I'd toggle between missing her and hating her. Between the man I used to be, the one who kissed her shoulder while she made pancakes, and the man who now memorized her movements like a detective. Her breath patterns. The way she blinked when she lied. The way she overcorrected when she told the truth. And then on the sixth night came the twist I never saw coming. I got a message. From him. No warning. Just a DM on an old social account I barely used anymore. Man to man. You deserve to know she reached out to me yesterday. I froze. I read it again. And again. My pulse pounded in my throat. I didn't reply. Not immediately. I walked into the kitchen where she was chopping onions like nothing had happened. I didn't say a word. Just set my phone down in front of her. Let her read it. Her eyes scanned it. And her hands, they stopped moving. She didn't speak. Not right away. Just stood there, knife frozen midair. Then finally, softly, he's lying. That's what they all say, I said. I swear to you, she said, turning toward me. I haven't spoken to him. I haven't even thought about it. He must have seen I blocked him and wanted to mess with you. How do I know that? Call my phone. Right now. Check my messages. My email. I give you permission. I didn't move. I just stared at her, eyes narrowed. He knew exactly what to say to crack this open again. She stepped forward, voice shaking now. I haven't broken once since that night. Not once. I've done everything. I've sat in this shame. I've earned nothing from you but silence, and I've taken it because I deserve it. And now some arrogant stranger sends you one message and you think that undoes all of it. I think it's convenient timing. Or maybe it's because you're looking for a reason not to forgive me. Maybe you don't want to move forward. Maybe this way you get to hold onto the pain and wear it like armor. I clenched my jaw. She stepped back. Go ahead. Check my phone. My laptop. Call the therapist. Ask her what we talked about. I've got nothing to hide anymore. I didn't say a word. She wiped her hands on a towel. Looked me dead in the eyes. I didn't reach out to him. I wouldn't do that. Not now. Not after everything I've said to you. But if you don't believe me, she paused, voice lower, rawer. Then we're already done. I stared at her. At the way her chest rose and fell. At the tears she was holding in place like bricks in a dam. And for the first time since the betrayal, I didn't see a liar. I saw a woman who was ready to lose everything just to tell the truth. But the question burned, could I ever believe her again? Could I ever let go of the version of me that kept preparing for her next betrayal, even when it hadn't come? And if I couldn't? Was I the one keeping us here now? I didn't check her phone. Not because I believed her without doubt, I didn't. Not fully. That trust was still rebuilding itself from the ash. But in that moment, with her standing in front of me, eyes red but unflinching, voice tight with exhaustion and resolve, I realized something bigger. This wasn't about evidence anymore. I'd gathered it. I'd studied it. I'd replayed every message, every facial twitch, every detail until I could taste the damn lake air she'd betrayed me in. I'd wrung myself dry looking for closure in receipts and screenshots. But forgiveness doesn't come stamped on a PDF. It comes when you choose to stop bleeding yourself over someone else's knife. So I didn't pick up her phone. I didn't call the therapist. I didn't respond to the message. I blocked the number, deleted the account, tossed my phone across the couch and looked her dead in the face. I believe you, I said. Not because you convinced me, but because I'm done letting him have power in this house. She blinked. So, what now? I didn't answer right away. I stepped past her, into the living room, sat on the edge of the couch. It was like standing at the edge of a cliff, asking myself if I was ready to jump without knowing where I'd land. Then I said it. We try. We don't pretend it didn't happen. We don't sweep it under the rug or rewrite the story. We acknowledge the damage. We move through it. Together. But I need you to understand you're going to have to fall in love with me all over again without shortcuts. And I need to want to be loved by you again. That's going to take time. She walked over and sat beside me. Quietly. Like she'd just been handed a second life. I'm here, she said. For all of it. We didn't touch. Didn't hug. Didn't cry. It wasn't that kind of ending. It was the kind of ending that starts with a beginning. That night, she didn't go to the guest room. She didn't sleep in our bed either. She laid on the couch. I laid on the floor. Not out of spite, just out of honesty. The kind of strange closeness you have when everything's broken but no longer hidden. We stared at the ceiling for a long time. And then she whispered, "What did you learn from all this?" I turned my head, looked at her, and answered without thinking. That I should have never said yes to something that made me feel no. That silence isn't peace. And that loving someone deeply doesn't mean they're incapable of betraying you. She nodded, eyes glossy in the dark. And you. She took a breath. That attention isn't love. That guilt doesn't fix damage. and that the only thing worse than cheating is not having the courage to face the person you hurt after. We lay there in the dark under the same ceiling, worlds apart and inches close. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like a man holding rubble. I felt like a man holding a blueprint. The house had burned. But maybe, just maybe, we could build something from the ashes. Something smaller. Something simpler. But honest. And that would be enough.